When Pope Leo XIV was elected, many anticipated change. But no one expected this. On a sunny morning that seemed like any other, the Vatican dropped a bombshell, an appointment so bold, so unconventional, that it left Catholics around the world stunned. Social media exploded. News outlets scrambled for confirmation. And within hours, questions poured in from every corner of the globe. Who is she? Why now? What does this mean for the future of the Church? Who was appointed? Meet Dr. Lucia Romano. A theologian. A missionary. A woman. And now, the newly appointed prefect of the Dicastery for Evangelization, one of the most influential roles in the Catholic Church. For centuries, this position had been reserved for high-ranking male clergy. But in one stroke of the papal pen, Pope Leo XIV broke tradition and made history. Journalists. This is the equivalent of appointing a woman as second in command in terms of church direction and voice. It's not symbolic, it's structural. It's seismic. Why this appointment matters. The Dicastery for Evangelization isn't just any office. It's the heartbeat of how the Church presents itself to the world. It guides missionaries, oversees global catechesis, and plays a central role in shaping the narrative of the Church's outreach. And now, at its helm is a laywoman with no clerical collar, but with a lifetime of service, academic excellence, and spiritual depth. Dr. Romano has spent decades serving in war zones, translating the gospel into indigenous languages, and leading initiatives for women and youth in underserved regions. She's no stranger to the front lines. She is the front line. Pope Leo XIV's leadership pattern. Those who have followed Pope Leo XIV closely are starting to recognize a pattern. He doesn't just preach reform, he enacts it. Quietly. Decisively. With precision and purpose. From appointing environmental scientists to advise the Vatican on climate issues, to expanding listening forums for abuse survivors, Leo's papacy is marked by one consistent trait: courageous compassion. But this appointment? It takes that courage to a whole new level. The reaction from within the Church. Reactions have ranged from enthusiastic applause to cautious skepticism. Bishop, this is the Holy Spirit moving through the cracks of our structures. It's not just the right move, it's the necessary one. Cardinal, I respect the Holy Father's authority, but we must tread carefully. The priesthood is sacramental. Leadership must respect the sacred tradition. And therein lies the tension. Pope Leo didn't ordain a woman. He didn't alter doctrine. But he did something many thought unthinkable. He entrusted real, global authority to a layperson outside the clerical elite. Catholics around the world react. On the ground, the people had plenty to say. Woman, I'm proud. As a mother and catechist, I finally feel like our voices matter. Man, I'm confused. I didn't know women could lead something so important in the Vatican. But maybe it's time. Even those uncertain about the implications admitted this appointment had opened a long-closed door. And with it came fresh air, invigorating to some, uncomfortable to others. Who is Dr. Lucia Romano? Born in Naples, Italy, Lucia Romano's journey into ministry began not with ambition, but with empathy. After surviving a devastating earthquake in her hometown, she devoted her life to helping others rebuild, not just homes, but hope. She pursued theology at the Pontifical Gregorian University, followed by anthropology and linguistics at Oxford. Her doctoral thesis? Evangelization as Dialogue, Reclaiming Christ Through Culture. She served in South Sudan, Myanmar, Haiti, and Brazil. And wherever she went, she carried the gospel in one hand and service in the other, breaking the silence for laywomen. For too long, Catholic women have been the backbone of parish life, but rarely the face of decision-making. Dr. Romano's appointment doesn't just honor one woman. It acknowledges millions. It says, your voice counts. Your service matters. Your leadership belongs. None She's not just representing women, she's representing the possibility that leadership can look different and still be faithful. Theological implications. Theologically, the appointment sparks discussion, but not disarray. Pope Leo hasn't redefined doctrine, but he's reshaped how leadership operates. By distinguishing between sacramental roles and governance, he's affirming that not all authority in the Church requires ordination. And that subtle distinction? It may be the key to unlocking a future where gifts, not gender, determine service. So why are Catholics stunned? Because they didn't expect it. Not now. Not like this. But that's what makes Pope Leo XIV's leadership so revolutionary. He doesn't wait for permission to do what's right. He listens for God's timing, and then acts with holy boldness. Dr. Lucia Romano's appointment wasn't just symbolic. It came with power, responsibility, and a worldwide mission. As the prefect of the Dicastery for Evangelization, she is now the strategic head of how the Catholic Church spreads the gospel in the modern world. And her vision? It's unlike anything the Church has seen before. Evangelization reimagined. Evangelization has long been associated with preaching, conversion, and catechesis. But Dr. Romano is reframing it. For her, evangelization is not about telling people what to believe, it's about accompanying them, listening to their stories, and meeting them where they are. She said in her first public statement as prefect, "The gospel must not be shouted at the world, it must be sung in harmony with its pain, its beauty, and its questions." Under her leadership, the dicastery is shifting toward a model of relational mission, less focused on numbers, more focused on transformation. Global Mission Strategy, the 5 pillars. Dr. Romano laid out her 5 core principles of modern evangelization in her inaugural address. Let's break them down. Listening before speaking. Missionaries are being trained not just in theology, but in active listening and cultural humility. Every new evangelization campaign begins with local listening forums. Presence over programs. The focus is now on embedding lay missionaries within communities for years, not days. Short-term mission trips are being replaced by long-term accompaniment models. Language of the people. The gospel is being translated not only into native languages, but into cultural narratives. Catechesis will incorporate music, dance, storytelling, and indigenous metaphors. Inclusion as evangelization. Outreach now includes marginalized groups the Church once ignored: refugees, LGBTQ+ individuals, the disabled, and those recovering from church-related trauma. Innovation with integrity. The Church is investing in new media, apps, podcasts, and even virtual reality experiences to share faith stories globally. This isn't evangelization from the top down, it's evangelization from the ground up. Resistance from within. Of course, not everyone supports this transformation. Some Vatican insiders have expressed concern that Dr. Romano's approach lacks doctrinal clarity. Others argue that she is turning evangelization into therapy. Priest. I respect her intellect. But evangelization is about conversion, about truth. The risk is we become more concerned with making people comfortable than helping them change. But Dr. Romano isn't ignoring this criticism. In fact, she welcomes it. She stated, "Truth without love is a weapon. Love without truth is empty. Our mission is to carry both, with tenderness and courage." Empowering local churches. A cornerstone of Dr. Romano's approach is decentralization. Rather than sending one-size-fits-all mandates from Rome, she's empowering local churches to take ownership of their evangelization efforts. Every diocese is now being encouraged to form a mission circle, a team of clergy and lay people, including youth and elders, that guide how their communities engage with seekers and the spiritually curious. These circles are encouraged to share their findings with Rome, creating a global feedback loop unlike anything the Church has done before. Youth evangelization, from boredom to belonging. Young people today aren't looking for rigid answers, they're looking for realness. Dr. Romano gets that. Under her leadership, the Church is rethinking how it reaches the next generation. The dicastery now funds social media creators who share faith-based content in relatable ways. Dr. Romano launched the Faith in Your Language campaign, encouraging youth to share what faith means to them through art, rap, dance, and video. Youth. When I saw the church repost my dance video with the hashtag #FaithEmotion, I cried. I finally felt like I belong. Focus on dialogue over debate. In the past, the church often focused on apologetic, defending the faith. Dr. Romano is pivoting toward dialogue, understanding others as a form of spiritual listening. She recently launched the 10 Talks series, monthly interfaith and interbelief conversations hosted in public squares, college campuses, and even online gaming platforms. It's bold. It's unusual. And for many, it's exactly what the church has been missing. Measuring impact differently. Traditional mission success was measured by baptisms, conversions, and attendance. But under Dr. Romano, the church is expanding its metrics. Now dioceses are asked to report stories of reconciliation, local spiritual innovations, joy and hope indicators in the community, barriers to trust and how they're being addressed. This isn't about softening the gospel, it's about embodying it. What this means for the future. Pope Leo XIV knew this appointment would cause waves. But he also knew it was time. Dr. Romano's leadership is not a temporary experiment, it's a signpost pointing toward a church that is more nimble, more humble, and more human. Her presence signals a shift, from a church that preaches from a podium, to a church that walks beside you on the road. In just a few months, Dr. Lucia Romano has taken one of the church's most powerful offices and turned it into a laboratory of love, innovation, and inclusion. She doesn't wear a mitre. She doesn't sit on a throne. But make no mistake, she's leading with a force the church cannot ignore. When Pope Leo XIV signed the letter appointing Dr. Lucia Romano as the new prefect of evangelization, he did more than break precedent. He sent a clear message. The church must lead by faith, not fear. And for Pope Leo, that message wasn't a standalone statement. It was the latest chapter in a papacy defined by radical love, unexpected reforms, and bold authenticity. Why did Pope Leo make this move? Many ask, why now? Why her? Why such a powerful role? The answer is layered. Pope Leo believes the Church is facing three simultaneous crises. A credibility crisis, wounds from abuse scandals, cover-ups, and political entanglements. A relevance crisis, especially among the youth and non-Western communities. A compassion crisis, where legalism often replaces love in public witness. Appointing Dr. Romano was Pope Leo's way of addressing all three. She brings credibility through her service, relevance through innovation, and compassion through a gospel-rooted lens. The bigger picture, women in church leadership. Though this appointment doesn't change church doctrine regarding ordination, it does challenge long-held assumptions about who can lead in powerful roles. Historically, many women have shaped the church behind the scenes. But now, one of them is at the table, with authority, with a voice, with real impact. Sister Angela. We've always been leaders, in schools, in hospitals, in missions. But now we're visible. Now we're acknowledged. And that visibility is inspiring countless Catholic women to see leadership not as rebellion, but as restoration. The conservative pushback. Of course, the backlash has been loud. Some traditionalists warn that this appointment could lead to confusion about the role of the priesthood. Others accuse Pope Leo of pandering to modern culture. One headline read, "Has the Pope gone too far?" Another, "Rome is bowing to secular pressure." Commentator, this is not about inclusion. This is about dismantling centuries of tradition. But Pope Leo has never been afraid of criticism. His response was simple, direct, and deeply rooted in Scripture. Christ called fishermen and tax collectors, not because they fit the mold, but because they could carry his message. A church that looks more like the gospel. Under Leo's leadership, the church is starting to look less like a fortress, and more like a family. He has appointed lay leaders to high-ranking roles, called for bishops to live more simply, reallocated funds from Vatican luxuries to humanitarian work, open dialogue with critics, even inviting atheist philosophers to Vatican panels. And now, with Dr. Romano's appointment, he's reinforcing the idea that the Church's strength lies not in its walls, but in its witness. Lucia Romano's early impact. In just a few months, Dr. Romano has initiated the following: the Global Mission Fellowship, connecting young Catholic innovators from over 60 countries. The Faith Stories Archive, a living digital project collecting testimonies from people rediscovering God. The Evangelization and Art Initiative, partnering with filmmakers, writers, and musicians to create culturally rooted expressions of the gospel. What she's doing is unprecedented. But it's also deeply faithful. Faithful to the gospel. Faithful to the people. And faithful to the future. A new generation awakens. Dr. Romano has become something unexpected, a symbol of possibility. Not a political figure. Not a celebrity. But a quiet storm of grace and action. In her presence, young Catholics are finding purpose again, not just in what the Church was, but in what the Church could become. Teen. When I saw her speak in our language, in our market square, I knew the Church saw us. That is evangelization. Not shouting into the void, but lighting a flame in someone's soul. What comes next? The big question remains, what's next? Insiders speculate that Pope Leo is preparing additional reforms. Greater authority for women religious in Vatican governance. Expanded decision-making roles for laypeople in church councils. A review of seminary structures to include psychological formation and trauma healing. Whatever happens, one thing is clear: the direction of this papacy is forward. Not recklessly. Not reactively. But rooted in discernment, prayer, and courage. The power of one appointment. Sometimes, one appointment changes everything. Not because it solves all problems, but because it cracks open the possibility of a new kind of future. Pope Leo's decision to appoint Dr. Lucia Romano didn't just surprise Catholics, it gave many of them hope. Hope that the Church they love is capable of evolution without betrayal, of relevance without compromise, of truth without exclusion. Final thoughts. In a time of division, Pope Leo chose unity. In a time of fear, he chose faith. And in a time of silence, he chose to amplify a voice history tried to ignore. Dr. Romano may not wear a crown, but she carries the weight of history. And she does so with humility, strength, and grace. Together, they remind us that the Church isn't just a building. It's a body. And every part matters. Surprise is the doorway through which the Spirit walks. Pope Leo XIV.